Hello, we are live on Facebook and YouTube. Hello, everyone. We'll give you a couple of seconds to join the video. Just quickly, just to remind you, I'm Anjuli. I'm the Marketing and Publicity Manager for Aconite Books. And with me today, I have CL Werner, author of The Sword of Surtur, our new Marvel Legends of Asgard book. Clint, say hello. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Good morning, good afternoon, wherever and whenever you are.
Oh, time zones.
Time zones. As Anjuli said, I'm the author of The Sword of Surtur, which hopefully, if you haven't read it already, you're planning to read it, and maybe we can make you decide to read it with this broadcast.
Yes, so let me show off The Sword of Surtur because it is a lovely cover. There it is. Very epic battles. There we have Tyr, the god of war, facing off against some fire monstrosity that you'll tell us more about, I am sure. The book is available in the USA in paperback, and it is available globally everywhere in ebook format now as well. So you can get it on any device that you choose to read your books on digitally. It is available in the UK in March now, yes, because we've had to move it back a bit. So it was going to be a February release. Unfortunately, due to all of the things, we've had to push it back 6 weeks. So it is going to be out on the 18th of March in the UK. So a little bit later, but that gives you more time to save up your money and pre-order it. Yay! Also gives bookshops and game stores some time to actually, hopefully, fingers crossed, be open again, so you can get it from your local friendly gaming store. Yay! So, can you tell us a little bit about The Sword of Surtur?
Well, I think really what I set out to do with the book is tell sort of a classic fantasy quest story, which is something that in previous novels I've never really had the chance to explore. We have Tyr, who's the elder son of Odin, sort of gets talked into going on this journey to Muspelheim to steal Twilight, which is the sword of the fire giant Surtur. And it's a bit of a cross reasoning for how he does it. It starts out a little bit, he's kind of jealous of Thor, who's obviously the great hero of Asgard and has sort of stolen his thunder, no pun intended. And gets talked into, kind of one-upping Thor. And it evolves from that to, this is the sword that is fated to kill his father. So it becomes sort of a filial duty to him to try and prevent this omen of doom that's hanging over Asgard.
Excellent. So, what sort of influenced you during this writing? Did you have to do a lot of Norse mythology research with this, or did you sort of use the previous Marvel world for it, or smush of the two? How did you go about researching and start writing?
I had to be very careful delving into the actual Norse mythology with Sword of Surtur, because Marvel has sort of taken their own track with, just as an example, in the actual mythology, Odin's wolves are the offspring of the Fenris wolf. That's not really an aspect that exists in Marvel. So that was something that early on had been a feature in the book, but had to be taken out later. They've done a few different sort of interpretations of the characters from that standpoint. Especially with Tyr, one of the earliest aspects with the character when he was first introduced in Marvel Comics is that quality where he's envious of Thor's acclaim, which again is not really something that's so much prevalent in the Norse mythology.
So a little bit of Norse mythology, but more sort of leaning towards the Marvel Universe mythology that they've been creating.
Yes, very much so, because I think with any property, like the Marvel Universe, Warhammer, whatever property that you're delving with, you want to stay true to what people have built before you. You know, it's kind of like being invited to play in a sandbox. You don't want to break any of the toys.
Yeah, but you won't be allowed to come play again. Just want to say a quick hello to Glenn in chat. Hello, Glenn.
Morning, Glenn.
Welcome. Okay, so why did you go about writing a story about Tyr then, sort of the elder but lesser known brother of Thor? Why did you pick him over any of the other sort of legends within Asgard?
I think with Tyr, the main reason that I focused on him is because he is a lesser known character. However, with the way that Marvel has interpreted him, I always felt there was a lot more potential that they could do with him, especially in some of his earlier appearances in the 60s. He was almost like a more physical stand-in for Loki. You know, they got tired of having Loki all the time. It seemed like they'd trot out Tyr and have him involved in some scheme against his brother. And later on, they did put more nuance to the character, but I always felt that if he was given a little more attention, there was a lot of richness there that you could dig into.
So who is this this fiery thing on this cover here? This very horned dude.
So
who is that?
Be Surtur himself, the giant.
Oh, yes.
Which, in the Marvel Universe, he's basically one of the huge, kind of even beyond just a villain. He's sort of on Galactus' scale, where it's more of a elemental force, something that you can only delay rather than prevent entirely. And especially with the way that Marvel's interpreted him over the years, they've done a aspect to him where he's not even concerned about conquest. He wants to burn it all down. Mm-hmm. So he's this apocalyptic figure.
Was he fun to write?
He's fun to write, very difficult dealing with a character on that scale. You're basically dealing with like a deliberately malevolent Godzilla at that point. But yes, immensely fun to try and figure out just how ruthless he is in pursuit of his schemes. And almost to the degree of like a Sauron type figure where he's in the background, but you're continually feeling his presence.
Okay. And I'm guessing from the book that Tyr feels more than just his presence. As it looks here that he seems to be battling him in an epic sword fight, as it were.
Well, he's definitely trying to prevent Surtur from putting in a personal appearance, as it is.
Oh, I really love the cover. Luckily, like the Aconite crew, we get to see all like the sketches and the things as it's coming together. They sort of show up on our team meets. Nick and Mark share them, and we all get to be like, "Ooh, I like that bit of that one, and that bit of that one. Ooh, look at that one." And the Legends of Asgard ones are one of my favorite like covers because they're always these like big epic scenes. Like Head of Mimir, we've got Heimdall jumping down onto the World Serpent with his sword out, and this one as well, big beasts and tiny epic heroes, and I really love them. They feel very in my wheelhouse, a sort of D&D epic tale.
Well, especially the Head of Mimir with the sort of fire and ice contrast going on with the two books.
Yeah.
I think really nice.
Yeah, they look really good next to each other. I'd like to be able to show it, but I don't have the physical copy of it yet. Mark has it in his office, and he's going to be bringing it around for me, but I don't have it just yet, which is sad. Oh, he does have a pile of books for me.
It's okay. I'm still waiting on my copies for Sword of Surtur. So my niece has a copy, but I don't.
Oh no! No! I'll make sure Ness gets that. Oh, it's sadness. I shall make sure. You doing browsers? Nice to see you, Clint.
Good morning.
Hey. Okay, so you told us a bit about what the Sword of Surtur is. This Twilight, this shard of Surtur. Can you give us a bit more background into exactly what the Sword of Surtur is for anyone who's not aware of the mythology or the comic sort of stories behind it?
Well, Twilight is essentially the blade that is fated to burn down Asgard. It's sort of this weapon that Surtur is constantly breaking and reforging so that he can make it as lethal and horrifying as possible. In the book, you find out that he's had his agents kidnapping dwarves to work on this thing and constantly imbue it with nastier runes and more fell magics, and he's impregnated it with poisons and just every nasty thing he can possibly devise.
Nice.
But it's got another aspect to it that comes into play within the novel that sort of makes it even more of an immediate threat to Asgard, sort of in advance of the prophecies of Ragnarok.
So this is a non-urgent question, but I'm going to put up. This is our Nick, Aconite's Nick, and he's asked, "What is that horrifying spider above Clint?"
That is a horrifying spider above Clint.
It is looming down on us. This fluffy spider, and it's like bones up there. Certainly a strange room that you're in, full of books and bones and spiders. Yes. Is that your writing room?
Yes, it is.
Excellent.
I was always impressed by Ray Bradbury's office. Budget version of that.
It says, "What is it from? Why do you have this spider? What is it for?"
That started out as a Halloween decoration.
Okay. And now it's your muse, your keeps you company whilst you write. Does it have a name?
If you already have something horrible at your back, you don't have to worry about what else is back there.
And it keeps the bugs away.
Does keep the bugs away. My first roommate, when I got my first apartment, I'd come home from work really late at night, and there'd be a tarantula crawling across the ceiling.
Oh, no.
I left it alone. That was the only bug I ever saw in that place. So whatever it was doing, it could do its thing.
It just could be there and do its thing. Yes. Yeah. I'm glad in England the worst we get is like, a daddy long legs. You don't have to worry about big spiders coming in. If we do, it's like this big and you're like, trap it in a jar, throw it out the window, done. Oh, Glenn says, does the comic canon cover Thrym, the Lord of the Frost Giants as well? So.
No, not within my novel, at least. I do mention Ymir, but not Thrym.
Do you know anything about the actual comic canon in regards to that? I'm terrible to actually ask anything about comic canon because I don't read the comics. I know Marvel through the films, so and WandaVision, which I hope to watch tonight. That's going to be my foray into the Marvel universe. Yeah, I only know what Disney tells me.
Well, unless they've changed it, Marvel had a distinction between the ice giants, which are down in
Jotunheim.
Well, they kind of moved them from there to Hell. So Ymir down there and all that, and then Thrym and the Frost Giants are in Jotunheim. Unless they've changed that.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, so I only really know my Norse mythology from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. I'm terrible.
Thrym, he's more of sort of a regal king of giants sort of thing, whereas Ymir is on the same level as Surtur, where he's this elemental primordial force.
Yeah, so more godlike than royalty.
The Thrym might be on the level of a god, whereas Ymir's like a titan.
Okay.
These things that the gods want to put down and make sure they don't come up again.
Glenn says it's a shameful admission by me that I don't know enough about the Marvel world and the comics. I know I'm sorry, I am a little embarrassed, but it allows me to ask questions like a complete noob and be excited by the answers and learn things. I'm learning so much from doing these interviews, so I refuse to apologize for it.
Looking at over 50 years worth of history to dig into, so I mean, sure, there are people that have everything at their fingertips, but I mean, from my standpoint, I don't think you can ever know it all.
No. Yeah, I think you have to choose a path and go down it.
Folklore and the Marvel Universe is early on had references to Skull and Hati, the two wolves that chase the sun and the moon, only to come and find out that there are two shape-shifting Asgardians called Skull and Hati that have nothing to do with Titanic wolves that eat the sun and the moon.
Oh, excellent.
Reference got pulled out.
So, tell us a little bit more about Bjorn and Lorelei then, because they are Tyr's sort of companions throughout the adventure, aren't they?
Lorelei is another, I don't like to say lesser character, but less well-known character from the comics. She is the younger sister of Amora the Enchantress. And in the comics, her magic is kind of very much inferior to the Enchantress's, with the exception of these love filters and sort of enchantments that she does to sort of sway people to her affections. And she's always had her targets set on Thor in the comics. One of the things I kind of played with this is whether or not that's because she's actually interested in Thor or if she just wants to be Queen of Asgard. But that
seem like ideal goals.
Necessarily with the same altruism as it in the book, she is kind of playing on Tyr's own aspect of being in the shadow of his sibling. So it kind of gives them a connection, which she's then able to use as almost a way into his confidences. And Bjorn Wolfsbane is a character that's new to the novel. He's a young hunter from Varenheim, where the Fenrir's wolf is shackled, and they have all kinds of problems with all the other wolves in Varenheim. So he becomes a wolf hunter to try and protect his homesteads. And growing up in that environment, of course, he looks up to the god that actually shackled the greatest wolf of them all. So he has a little bit of kind of hero worship towards here early on in the novel, and then which again is something that Lorelei plays with.
I like the sound of Lorelei a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
She really was.
And do you see them taking their adventures as a trio any further than this book? Would you like to write more with these three, or have any idea?
I think I would like to do more with Tyr if anybody's, if everybody enjoys the book starting off. I have looked at a few of the other characters from Marvel's Asgard, and really think the Warriors 3 would lend themselves to a novel. I see a lot of potential with them as well. That sounds
good as well. Yes, please. Yes, please.
And the nice thing with the Warriors 3 is, since they brought in Hildegard, it gives you kind of a roster that you can change for each book.
Oh, cool. Oh, look at you planning books and books. I like it. Thinking ahead. So there is talk of a lava kraken in this book, which I am very interested in. I once tried to build a D&D lava kraken to throw at my party, almost killing them instantly because it was very badly balanced. How would you stat up this lava kraken? Like, tell us more, basically.
The lava kraken's obviously a horrible thing that lives in Muspelheim. And as the name implies, instead of swimming around the ocean, it's swimming around in pools of molten magma. Its tentacles and everything are dripping with fire. Instead of ink, it exudes this cloud of cinders and smoke, which I thought was a really keen effect.
That's a really cool effect. I'm like, oh dang, my kraken did not do that. that would have been a really good effect.
I'd say the only reason anybody actually survives on this is we're dealing with people that are, even just the average Asgardian is so much superior to, everybody living on Muspelheim.
Yes.
They're able to actually endure and overcome this monstrosity. I think if I were to stat it, I'm going off of first edition AD&D.
Yeah.
It'd obviously be 10 hit dice and have 8 attacks.
Nice. I think that's kind of what I did for like 5th edition. But 5th edition is obviously it's I just didn't balance it very well at all. And like with the first hit, everyone was like down by like half their hit points, and I was like, oh dear, not worked this out very well.
That's why there's a DM screen.
Yeah, there was many fudged rolls for me. Like, don't kill them all off in the first 5 minutes. with three games from the end game. It's like, no. Oh yeah, it wasn't my best. Statting up of anything. I may have rushed it a little bit.
I always find with monsters like that, there's an easy out if you make sure to keep a few NPCs with the group.
Yes.
Because Kraken's probably just interested in a meal. Have it snatch up a NPC, and then he's going home.
Yeah. That definitely should have been what I did. I just went a little bit crazy. It was like, I'm gonna give it like 8 attacks at once. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, and it's gonna do this, and it's gonna do this. Oh, it's got like 500 hit points. I did not plan it well for my poor level 10s. Like, what is this? Up until this point, they've been fighting like orcs and goblins. And they were like, we're invincible.
I used to be horrible with goblins when I'd throw them at my players, because unlike all the other monsters, the goblins knew how to use poison and were very liberal about using poison. Anytime I got hit by a goblin, it was like, should I be worried?
They put their poison on their toast. They love it so much. Yes. Okay, so who's your favorite Marvel character? Out of all the characters in Marvel, who's your favorite and why?
I probably have to say, and it won't surprise anybody that knows me, but their interpretation of Dracula. Way back with the Tomb of Dracula comics, when I discovered those things, I mean, it's like lightning in a bottle, and just loved everything that they did with that character. They had the Vampire Tales and Dracula Lives, which were these big black and white magazines that they were able to publish that didn't have to abide by the comics code, so they could do all kinds of different things in there as well. Among the more ridiculous things, you couldn't use the word zombie in a comic book back then, but they could do it in a magazine.
Oh, why couldn't you use the word zombie in a comic book?
It was a hangover from the what they used to call the seduction of the innocent sort of witch hunts back in the 1950s, when we had like Tales from the Crypt and the EC Comics really pushing things as far as they could, and Eisenhower era backlash to it. And one of the things that they really zeroed in on was zombies.
Oh, okay. Strange thing, but okay.
It was a long time before they could even. In fact, it was always a joke when Marv Wolfman started working in comics that was the only way you could use the words Wolfman in a comic book.
Okay. I did not know that. That's something you learnt. So what's your favourite thing about writing tie-in fiction? Because you don't just write for Aconite, you write for Black Library, and what's your favourite thing? Why do you go for the tie-in fiction?
I think one of the best aspects of it is really digging into, obviously if you're already interested in Marvel or Warhammer or whatever IP that it is you're working with. I almost said one that I'm not allowed to say. But as you delve in there, you really get a greater appreciation for the lore. You learn new things about the background. So it almost becomes a journey of discovery before you even start writing anything. And of course, the chance to actually contribute more material to something that you're already invested in is, can't be understated. It always gives me a real chuckle when I read somebody else's work, or I'll see something in a video game or even a miniature later on that was based off of something that I actually did.
Oh. Yeah, I can imagine that's quite satisfying.
I know a lot of the Warhammer role-playing books, I've seen things that, I remember when that started.
Yeah, one of my friends runs a miniatures company, and in her last Kickstarter, she made an Anjuli miniature, the War Anjuli. So it was a World War II me sort of posing out, sort of halfway out of a single-person bomb shelter. And I've got like my hair up and I'm like looking out, and it was because we went to a war museum and I was being stupid and just like posing in front of weird things, and she took photos and then made it into a miniature, and that was the most exciting thing, was to have a miniature of myself made and be like, this is me. But yeah, I can imagine.
Peter Cushing, the actor, one of the first things that he did when he had some money was to get a little tin soldier made of himself from a movie, I think it was called The Black Shield, where he played a Saracen knight. But he had a miniature made of himself.
Amazing. It's very nice.
Pretty much one of us.
So with the joys of writing tie fiction, there also comes some challenges. So how do you overcome any challenges that you come across with tie fiction? Any advice for anyone else out there who's trying to get into tie fiction?
Well, one of the big things I know a lot of people will talk about is hitting a writer's block. And I always maintain that the best way of avoiding that is to plot everything to an outline, break it down scene by scene. So if something is giving you a problem in a spot, jump ahead of it. As long as you have that spot there where you know what you have to come back and fill in. But sometimes getting ahead of that particular scene will help inform what you need to do for that scene to get it to work.
Yeah, I can see that working. Like, so sometimes you don't really know how they're going to get from the A to C. So if you skip ahead to C, like, it will sort of unravel itself and sort of tell you some of that journey.
Or even if you know how, but you don't know how to tell it effectively, just even coming back, weeks later with a sort of a fresh set of eyes to it can really help you out. There's always that old saying, not seeing the forest because of the trees. It's kind of that same thing where you're too focused on it. You step back, focus on something else, and then come back and look at it with sort of a new perspective.
Well, whilst we plug anything, if anyone in chat has any questions, now is your time to type them in, and we will attempt as much as we can to answer them for you. Clint, do you have anything else that you want to plug here before the end of the show? Anything else coming up?
know that through Black Library, we've got Lady of Sorrows coming out in paperback, and that should be March or April. All things knock on wood. But
They used to take the studio as us, so hopefully.
I know at least over here, it seemed that the hardbacks didn't get much distribution. So if anybody missed out on that one, that might be their opportunity to get a hold of a copy. Also through Black Library, it did just have a short story with the Wormspat, which are a group of Nurgle worshippers. Kind of appropriate. Anyway, that's a short story in the Dire Chasm anthology that was just released.
Ooh.
And Goodman Games has just started distributing and mailing out issue 5 of their Tales from the Mission Skull magazine. And I have one of my Shintaro Oba samurai stories in that issue.
Ooh.
And he's a demon hunting samurai in a sort of fantastical Japanese themed setting.
Excellent. That sounds really interesting. Perfect.
Hopefully going to do a collection of those, so we'll see.
Oh. So Nick asked, what Asgardian foe would you least like to face?
There's a lot of bad ones. Probably the saving grace to somebody like Surtur or Ymir is they're going to just annihilate you immediately. So I'd probably say somebody that would mess around with your head. Hela comes to mind. Loki, of course, is another infamous manipulator. The Enchantress. Lorelei, even. So I'd say the ones that can make you do things that you don't want to do.
Yeah. I mean, all of them would definitely annihilate me. I wouldn't want to come up against any of them because I am a weak human. But if I was also a superhero, then yeah, I think the ones that would get in my mind would be the worst. Me being in my own mind is pretty pretty bad at times. Give me someone else in there. Is there any current work coming out on the Marvel app? So for Akonai, I don't believe our books are coming out within the Marvel app at all. So all ebooks and things are just available via download from Amazon and Kobo and Barnes and Noble, etc. I do not believe they're going to be available on the Marvel app as far as I'm aware. However, Nick, he's in chat. Maybe he knows if something's happening there with them, but I don't believe there are any plans at the moment for our books to be available that way. So maybe that's something we should look into. Nick, make a note. So we are coming to the end of the chat. So we have been talking about the Sword of Surtur. So that is our new Legends of Asgard novel that is available now in the US in paperback and ebook globally. So whether you're in the UK, the EU, the US, Canada, you can pick up the Sword of Surtur in ebook now, which means that you can stay home and stay safe, read a good book. Don't know what the weather's like where you are, but here in Nottingham it's been snowing on and off, so it's definitely read a good book weather. And it will be available in the UK in March on the 18th. Fingers crossed, everything going well. It will be in at least online, and if bookshops hopefully are open again and game shops are open again, it'll be available in there as well. Thank you everyone for coming along. Nick says, don't think so. Yep, regular bookstores, gaming places, and online. That's what I thought. Yay, I got the answer right. Yes, thank you everyone for coming along and for in chat. Thank you for interacting with us and asking questions. It's always nice to see faces and names that I know in the chat. And thanks for coming back and talking. And Clint, thank you very much for staying awake so early and coming and chatting with me. Because it's only 9:30 where you are, something like that.
Yep, 9:30.
Yeah, nice and early. Day's just getting started, and mine is almost at an end.
Always
Yeah.
never know.
It's almost the weekend.
Thank
But
you
yeah,
for having me on, and thank you to everybody that provided those questions. That was nice.
wonderful. Well, we shall meet again. I have another Facebook live chat with one of our authors next Wednesday. I believe that I am talking to Tim Pratt about The Fractured Void, which is the Twilight Imperium novel. And then next Friday, talking to Rosemary Jones about The Mask of Silver. It's the new Arkham Horror book that came out this month as well. Yay, so busy, busy, busy here. Yes, if you are watching and you think, hey, you should do a chat about this, you should be a show about X, Y, or Z, let me know, and I can see if I can work something out. We do want to be playing more games with our authors like we did at Christmas, and we are working on doing some RPGs, so we can do some live play games and looking at playing Mansions of Madness and other FFG titled games, so we can link them in with our books. But yeah, if there's anything that you think we should be doing, do let me know. But have a lovely day, everyone, and we will see you again soon. Bye.
Bye.